Okay, I think we're live. Can you see me? It looks like I could use a little more light on the situation here. I'm all in shadow. Okay. Maybe better, maybe. Maybe. All right. Good morning, everybody. How is your Thursday? How is your week going? Welcome to my live paint and chat with Paint Fumes. I'm Lynell Ingram, the artist, the troublemaker, the chaos bringer, and sometimes completely lost and confused. Yes, I hope you have a coffee and maybe a project or something to work on while I'm painting, and we can kind of co-work and hang out together this morning and just keep the creative juices flowing. Let's adjust this camera a little bit. I still haven't nailed the working on the easel setup for the cameras and such, so that will be something I will continue to work on. I was just, before this stream, looking up like mic stands with arms, because right now my mic is here and the wire is just kind of like going across the floor and barely reaches, and the camera, my face cam, is on this very rickety stand with, again, a wire just going across my path there. So thinking about getting a different holder for that, something a little bit more stable too. But okay, if you've been following me for a little while and popping into live streams here and there, you have probably seen me work on this guy before. 24 by 48 inch canvas, and it is, I've been working on it on and off for a while. I don't think I've touched it since the last live stream that I worked on it. So I've decided this guy needs to get finished. So great opportunity to just get working and hang out a little bit. Good motivation to do it. So I will be adding a few more paper elements on it, and then for sure continuing with painting this texture that's going to cover a lot of the canvas, this like watery texture. So that's the main plan for today. Anything else that is able to get done is just definitely bonus. But yeah, that's where we are, and nice warm coffee to get the blood flowing. As I've been up for about 3 hours, but I do not feel awake today. I don't know if it's nice cool weather. It's very, very pleasant and cool, like 60s, and I have the window open and I love it, even the sun's shining. But I'm still a little warm in here. And at least some of that has to do with a lot of lights being on in here for recording. The lights around me immediately, like my regular studio lights, are all LEDs. They don't put off much heat. But the light behind me up here with the big umbrella, that one's for shooting and doing videos and stuff. And I don't always need it to run as well. It just depends. But that one does put off a bit of heat when it's running, which can get very uncomfortable in here in the summertime. So, if you've seen me do collage before, I usually use my pH neutral adhesive bottle, but because I'm working much larger and with larger pieces of collage materials, I'm going to use gel medium, which works very well on canvas, of course, too. A lot of my work is on paper, so don't necessarily need something as heavy as this. This is pretty thick and heavy stuff. Like the texture of it is very, like, it's not going to pour out. So I'm going to start with doing some additions of imagery, and some of it's going to be some more watery stuff, and then I have some random little bits like this guy that I really like. And this piece I think I've talked about before. It's hard to see, I guess, a little bit, but It's kind of about anxiety, the feeling of anxiety. And I know this image is kind of like silly and fashion and such. It's a vintage piece from a Life magazine. But it still reads as, like, with the hat over the face and the glasses on the hat, as hiding, as oppressive in a way. So I think it will work well for this. And I'm going to tear some of the edge as well as cut it to make it fit. I'm thinking maybe over here, but that might not work so well. So if it's against the edge, I wouldn't bother trimming the edge too much. Or maybe I could just cut the silhouette out. Could, but no. I don't know why I want it over here, but it's just like a more of a intuitive, like, feels right decision than a specific planned, like, thing that I can reason out. I mean, it could come over here, but it would feel very disconnected. I kind of like it there, like, kind of being cramped into the edge. Near the character, but not right by her head. Not floating out to create a whole separate focal point. Because people tend to be a focal point, right? We recognize humans and have a tendency to look towards them when we recognize them in something we're looking at. So something over here. And instead of putting my medium directly on my piece, I'm gonna make a light line so I know where I need to put it on the canvas. And apply it directly to the canvas and put the piece on from there. So that's my thought process here. It'll be interesting. I am taking a little bit of a risk to put it over this piece of sort of a thin cardboard, so that texture could definitely be interesting. I don't know, we'll see how it works, but I'm willing to go for it. I'm willing to work with that, and I am okay with some texture there showing up behind it, because it doesn't need to be a primary thing. All right, here goes nothing. A little bit more, maybe. Right about there. Give it a little light brush over, kind of push out air bubbles. Without getting it too wet, thus creating more ripples and air bubbles. Okay. Any place that didn't have enough of the medium, I can kind of lift the edge a little bit and put it back on there. And please let me know if something isn't working well in terms of visibility on this. If you can't hear me clearly or see, feel free to let me know. okay, and I think a little bit more in the bottom here. And that should do it. It's interesting that the paper is still kind of wanting to bubble away from that adhesive, but I think I got it. All right, here we go. Yeah, I like that. Okay, and I do have a few more pieces. Whoa! All right, winning today. Sorry about that. There goes the camera. Don't get dizzy. One more time. I will, yeah, I definitely need a better tripod for that camera. Apologies. Good morning, you're set. How are you today? What time is it? Where you said you're in Australia, right? Like for me, it's morning, but what time is it by you? I wonder. I'm curious. And I add some more watery bits around to, probably kind of build out sections of collage elements on the outside in chunks. Just 1 a.m. Yes, artist time indeed. Yeah, yep. I hear ya. It's funny because I've always neither been a morning person nor a night owl. Like, let me sleep in a little bit, but I still kind of want to go to bed early. It's funny. I guess I just like my sleep. I don't know. I'm not sure. All right, I'm gonna put that one to the side for a second. Without knocking anything over this time. Grab a couple others. I'll just throw that right in the corner. Yeah, we'll go with that. Just gonna go real heavy with my stuff here. And loosen that a hair so I can kind of pull it up over that corner and not paint directly on my easel. And I didn't even place any marks, so I gotta check what I'm doing. How close am I to where I need to be? I nap at midday and work early morning and late evening. I'm both a night owl and a morning person. What are we working on today? This is a painting that I started this quite a while ago. I can't remember now when I started it. It's been that long. It's a painting about it that represents to me anxiety, because I deal with mental health a lot in a lot of my work. And it's been sitting in my studio for a long time. I worked on it on stream in some of the earlier days on the stream a little bit, but it's been a while, and I just decided like I need to get this done. I'm tired of looking at the half-finished canvas sitting around. Morbid Sniper, finally made it. Sorry for missing your other streams. That's all right. Good to see you this morning. Good to have you here. Thank you for joining. Just trying to get some things going here. Going from working like on a relatively small piece of paper to something this size, definitely you have to change up your thought process a little bit. And that's just gonna need to dry now. Couple air bubbles. Normally I would be like standing so I'm not hunched over when I'm doing this, but I also put the chair here specifically to try to keep me from like standing in front of the canvas while I'm painting, to be like, I need to be a little bit further away so y'all can see. So that's kind of a weird thing, but it works for me. Fellow Anxiety Club member, please explain the art more. I'd love to know about it. When I experience panic attacks, for me, they're usually, I feel like I'm underwater. Like there's that pressure on your chest, and there's a feeling of a lack of control and a desire to shut down. And it's just very heavy. It's a very heavy, overwhelming, oppressive feeling. And the feeling that hits your chest when you're underwater, that is like one of the most significant feelings, that like physical experiences I get when I have an anxiety attack. And that's what I'm representing here. I know she doesn't look anxious. I don't think I look anxious when I have an anxiety attack typically. I don't think I look anything. So it's just very internalized and a feeling of kind of sinking. So that is my thesis, so to speak, on that. So, and like the water, these kind of, the texture of the water waves is sort of like netting too, and snaring and covering everything in an uncomfortable way. 100% get that. Did a recent piece that was anxiety driven, and it was me on the sand while the water laps at my feet, water being anxiety. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Kind of, I don't know if water is a common metaphor for anxiety, but it's interesting that we have seen it that way or felt it that way. I have some more random pieces of paper. We're just gonna keep going. I'm gonna tear this one, I think. I like those edges. I like that. Torn edge. Feels right, I think. For me, anxiety has always been more of a pillow over your face feeling, more than of drowning or sinking feeling. It's very interesting how different that people's experiences can be at the same time. There's like a commonality, and yet it's so individual. In my past work, I learned subconsciousness in art is often conveyed by water. Ah. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. I could see that. I mean, there's so much subconscious going on in art. Even when we don't think we're painting something meaningful, it is inescapable that what we produce is of us. So when artists say, like, what's that artist's name? Baczynski? Is that right? Painter of Nightmares? He would famously say that he wasn't painting about anything in particular, and his work wasn't really much to do with him. But I think that's a load of BS, because it is impossible. You could maybe make that argument if all you're doing is painting landscapes. You could try to make that argument if you're just painting what you're looking at. You put a flower on a table and you just paint that. I still think that you put yourself in it in a way, in some way, shape, or form. So that's just, I don't know. I think it's inescapable. And probably also why art therapy is such a big deal. I've seen plenty of art with anxiety as water or as empty ocean. That's why I'm loving watching you work, seeing how you do it. Yeah, we all do have a different different approach. I love seeing how other artists work too. I think you can learn so much, and it's another I pulled this out, stressed out this little piece of paper to think about using on it, but now that I'm grabbing it, it feels just way too on the nose to put on there, so put that to the side for now. Yeah, do you have some place where we can see your work? I would love to check it out. I don't know if you post videos or have an Instagram or anything. Throw it in the chat. Alright, I'm just sort of moving now. Every now and again you hit a little pace with something. Some things go slow, some things just sort of start flowing out of you. Also, I don't know if anybody brought their water with them today, wherever you're hanging out, at home or otherwise, but don't forget to stay hydrated. I think when you get in the zone creating, it's very easy to forget to take care of little important details like that. And I have a thing as big as my head for my water. But if I finish that while I'm in the studio, doing well, doing well. And I have the tiniest little piece of paper here. I don't know if this camera's gonna focus on it well enough. Barely. It says, "The least someone could do is help me." And this, it totally out of context for this piece, but I love it here. Pretty sure it was out of an old like Women's Day from the 50s, and it was talking about housework. You know? So in the context of this painting, it's very tiny, and you really have to get up close to see it, but I like that a lot. Maybe, oh no, I did it again. Sorry. Alright, maybe I can move this to a slightly better position. Oh my goodness. Sorry, guys. I swear, I'm a professional. Old graphic designer, but actual like illustration artist. Awesome. Hydro, yeah. Seriously, I need sandbags, something. Every time, it's because you might be able to see from the camera back here, there's like wires across this open space to get to that camera there, where I'm trying to have it like on my face a little bit. So every time I move anything in this area, it's way too easy for the camera to go flying. And it's a really cheap like tripod stand. It's one that's for phones, so the base is only like this big and it's chintzy. So I mentioned when I think was first starting the stream that I'm thinking about going and getting a much better stand, a much better quality stand that maybe I can even like wrap around the easel or something to hold that camera, because This is not working well. So this, I think, will probably be the last piece of collage I'm putting on at the moment here. And then I'll get into doing some painting. A little more, a little more. Okay. One thing I've really noticed this spring that I don't know if I really noticed before, and I think they just weren't blooming, is that outside the windows of our place and the front door and the back door in the building that we live in, they have lilac bushes. And I really don't think that they've blossomed before. I've been here a while. But they're blossoming now. They actually might be coming towards the end of it, but when the windows are open and the wind blows just right, or when you're walking in or out the door, you get that little like whiff of lilac, which is really, really nice. And it's so nice to be able to have the windows open in here. I don't exactly get a lot of cross ventilation because we're in a building, all of our windows face east. And this room is like in the center with the door closed off to the rest of the space, so you don't get any cross breeze. But when there is a breeze outside and it's nice and cool, it's really, really nice. I know, I have done a lot of improvising on a lot of things, and then there comes this moment where it's like, I just need something that functions. I've gotten by a long time working with just what I got, but I've tried different things, but this little webcam gives me hell. Alright, so I just think that's good for now, for any of, what am I doing? There's the lid for the medium, my gloss medium. We'll put that to the side for now, and I actually pre-mixed some paint. Probably not enough, but it'll get me started. I got it. I kept put it in a little container like this. This was a feta cheese container, but with a lid, like these little, grocery store leftover things. Anything with a lid that kind of keeps your paint, acrylic paint, better for a while. Otherwise it can dry out on you, and that's always annoying. Can we get a proper look at the work in progress? Yeah, if you can be patient with me for a second, I'll take the camera down and bring it close. It might get a little wobbly for a second, though. Give me a second here. I will also have to manually adjust the focus. Okay, let's see if we can do this without breaking anything. Would be the real trick. If you get motion sick, you might want to close your eyes for a second. Okay. Just okay, so zoom out a little bit. So this is the bottom with the face. And come up a little bit. The problem with working on a vertical piece like this is getting it all in the frame of the camera. So that is that is it so far. So let me, if you want to close your eyes for a second again, I don't blame you. Hold on, I'm going to put the camera back. Attempt to get it back up here and readjust my focus. Nope, that didn't work. Come on. Getting it. Alright, maybe. Alright. Alright, camera's in place at least. Let me adjust my focus. Here we are, I believe. Okay. I think we're relatively back. Just a little bit. Okay. It seems like it's really bright on that side. Maybe that's better. Maybe. For this piece, it is all, so far, all the paint is acrylic. And then I have some of the bits of paper as collage elements, and that's all I've got on here so far as mediums. My intention is to finish this like wavy netting stuff before I move on to bringing in a lot of other stuff. It's a lot easier to add a lot more mediums when you're working on paper than on canvas. I can ultimately, towards the end, add in oil paint if I feel like that will add something to this, but you can't put acrylic paint over oil paint, but you can the other way around. So I need to get all my base done before I would consider doing that. I'm considering, because this is large, incorporating a little bit of spray paint. Perhaps in the next phase. And there'll certainly be some like paint markers used. And I've used in other large canvas pieces I've done dimensional things too, and that might be something I'll consider. I'll show you what I mean. I can get this out from behind everything without knocking anything over. That would be great. Okay. So this is a painting that I've done previously. This is same width actually, 24 by 24. And if you can kind of see these pieces here, come up off, like I peeled away the back, and it's actually pieces of canvas that I've lifted and taped over. So it's kind of hard to tell when you're just looking straight that there's anything dimensional on it, but if I hold it at an angle, you can see. So I do some things like that when I'm working on the larger canvases usually. I haven't determined, like, I kind of went into this one with that plan, but I did not have a specific plan yet for this guy with the dimensional pieces, but I will likely have some other elements that'll weave around. I just haven't gotten to there yet. Sometimes one of my paintings starts with the idea of some later points that I'll do, and I build that into it right off the bat, but not yet on this one. So we still feel like I have quite a ways to go on this one. Alright, so I was going to do a thing. This piece that I put in the corner is very not flat, but that's okay. The more recent magazine clippings do a lot more buckling than when I use like the vintage ones. So this one were vintage, but more recent paper out of magazines from like the last 10 years. They don't, 10 or 15 years, they just don't, they're like cheaper, I guess, probably. Which I suppose makes sense. People don't tend to keep magazines for very long. How often do you make 3D art? I really only started experimenting with that in the last like year and a half or so. I got really inspired when I was in, where was it? I think it was Savannah, Georgia, pre-pandemic. And I was in the art museum, the contemporary art museum there, and Susanna Jackson was an artist from that area that had an exhibit. And it started with some of her paintings from when she first started painting, but then as you work your way back into the show, these gorgeous, like, tapestries, I guess you'd call them, and they had all these dimensional elements, and they were colorful and amazing, and parts of them you saw through, and some of them were built off of like cheesecloth with all these things, layers of acrylic paint over it to create solid areas, and that really stuck with me as something just really amazing. And it sat in the back of my brain for a while. And the first painting I ever did with some of that elements was another one this same size, actually. And it's not in this room currently because I just run out of space. but that is one that I really love too. And usually I do that on canvas. On paper, I might do it at a much lower amount. I did a David Bowie portrait. Actually finished that on really early streams. And that one I incorporated some like found objects into. That was a little bit, because it was on paper, that was actually a little bit of a challenge, but I think it worked out in the end. Okay, so just gonna start creating these shapes. I'm gonna add a little water into my paint so that it's a little more fluid. I don't know that I have any. Do I have any fluid medium? Let me look real quick. I do have a little bit. So I'm going to mix a little bit of fluid medium into this, so I want it to like flow nicely when I paint it on the canvas. If I can open it without spilling it, that would be a super bonus. Okay, here we go. Here we go, here we go. See if that helps. Yeah, it should be a little nicer. Making a big mess, but that's what we do. If you don't make a mess, did you even make anything? This is the kind of painting where I think it's really, oil painting has acrylic painting beat. Trying to have nice fluid marks. think part of the reason that I've kind of resisted working on this piece more is like finishing this part feels very overwhelming because I feel like I don't know what I'm doing while I'm painting it. But, you know, sometimes you just gotta let go of control and just go with it. And my guys here are dry enough. And I'll paint over them a little bit too. What is this letting go of control? Please advise no such thing. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah, trying to turn off the brain a little bit. It's like trying to get into that flow state where you're not thinking as much and you're just doing. It's hard to force that, but sometimes once you can force yourself to start, and I don't know where I want my brush to go next, but I'm just gonna put a line somewhere and work with it. And once I start doing that, kind of maybe that'll help build some confidence, maybe, as I go. Who knows? And it's like, perfectionism is sort of like a thing where we're trying to hold on to control about how everything goes, and that, I think that is exactly right. There's my cat. When it comes to perfectionism, like with this, being afraid of working with that it's not going to be right, that it freezes you, it like paralyzes you from doing. So I've really tried to approach my paintings as more of like a playground where I've decided I don't care how it turns out. If it doesn't work, it's fine. I'll just dust it and try something else. So removing the pressure that everything needs to be good, that everything needs to accomplish something, is really helpful. And one thing, like working with acrylic paint, one of the benefits of working with acrylic paint is that you can always paint over it. What kind of cat? I have a Maine Coon. Oh, Watson is a mix of domestic short hair and Abyssinian. And he has all of those charming and ridiculous Abyssinian traits. So he needs lots of attention. He gets bored very easy. And he just gets into everything. He's a pretty fun guy. Aren't you? You're just walking all over all the desks in here, just like, yeah, alright, I'm bored. What you doing? Anything I can get into. A Maltese Shih Tzu. Oh. But before her, all cats. I've never had a dog. A lot of my friends have dogs, and they're all wonderful. I think for me, I would struggle with giving them the right kind of care that they need, probably. Not that my cat is low maintenance or anything, but well, especially living in like a condo, it makes it hard to give them like yard space and running space when like I don't even get my butt out of the house very often. And that one come right out of the finger. All right, sip some water time. Oh no. Morbid Sniper says, I once went to a zoo, but it only had one animal, and it was a dog. It was a Shih Tzu. Wah, wah. Oh. So many bad jokes. I can never remember jokes. I can barely remember where I live. Might be 23, but I like dad jokes. It does a dad joke indeed. You can never remember how to spell your middle name. I have to remember that. My middle name is my name. It's what I go by. Which was a weird thing on my dad's side of the family. What are you doing, Watson? You breaking things, huh? Another thing about my cat is he's kind of a scared cat. Very nervous little guy. Gets anxiety. Separation anxiety with the cat is a for real thing. He does not like it when I leave the house for more than much. And that probably is like the fault of always being home. Working from home. Especially since, you know, all the pandemic stuff. He's used to people being around him all the time. Alright, it's not going so badly, I think. I'm going to throw a little bit more my medium in here. Which was the best $3 I've ever spent. Maybe. Always check the clearance racks. Art supplies are expensive. One of my favorite places to go, and it's so dangerous. There's a store in this area. They have a couple locations, one in the suburbs and I think 2 in the city of Chicago. It's called the Waste Shed. And they are like a thrift store for art supplies and crafting supplies and stuff. And everything that they have is lightly used. And it's amazing. I found some great things in there. And there have been times I've gone in there and not found almost a darn thing, but usually it's really great. Bring home like half or less than half used bottles of like different mediums or paint colors that I don't have. One time I found a whole stack of old 60s Life magazines there, and I was just heaven. Like, that's everything that I want for my art right there. Give me more. Getting hard to find that kind of thing. I really wish I could find a whole bunch of 80s like especially the women's or early 90s magazines. They've aged so badly, you know. They're so awful, but they would work so well for so much of my work. Watson just went out of the room. He just walked out of the room, opened the door, gone. Gotta go check out what's going on. Yeah, Watson definitely. Almost all of the cats that I've had have had some like very dog like attributes that people put to dogs. Like Watson will fetch. Not all the time when he darn right feels like it, because he is a cat, but he will fetch. He'll bring me the toy he wants to play with. He's a character. Text to stream turned on. Text to speech. Oh. Try to talk to the cat. He might be back yet. He always gets bored. He normally gets fed at noon, his lunch. So as we get close to that time here, he'll start making more appearances to let me know we're getting close. All the animals I met love me, even the wild ones. Awesome. It's funny, I grew up in a very rural town. Spent some time on a farm, like in the summers and such. And now living in very much the heart of the suburbs, I see more wild animals here than I ever did growing up. Coyotes, foxes, hawks. All the time. There's like a hawk that lives in our neighborhood. So, for the sake of my back, I'm going to work into this area now, I think. And I don't have to lean over so much for the moment without changing my easel setup completely. But having this easel is a game changer, because before I could not Like to work on this, I have it leaning on the floor, and I'd be sitting on the floor. There he is. Hi, Mr. Watson. Come here. Come here, you. Oh, I'll say hi to everybody. Here's my cat. He's worried about something in the hallway at the moment. Let's see. Hey, look at the camera over there. Hi. Yeah, this is my baby boy. Oh, you're sweet. Yes, you are. You're my studio assistant. Most days. He keeps me on task. Always yelling at me to get things done and to feed him. In other words, reminding me to take breaks. There you go, baby. Now cat hair. Alright. Cat hair and painting, that's kind of how it goes. And when you have a cat, it's like cat hair and food. Natural condiment. He's a sweet guy. He's so much bigger than we thought he was going to get. Had him into the vet like a week ago, and he was 14 and a quarter pounds. So, yeah. He's just 2. He just turned 2 like a month ago. Alright, coffee time. I keep forgetting I had my coffee. It's probably cold by now. That doesn't bother me. I have no issue with cold coffee or lukewarm water. It's all good. Alright. Where am I here? This all feels... It's kind of stressful to do this part because I'm trying not to be precious about it, but I definitely feel like I don't know exactly what I'm doing or where I'm going with all these shapes. It's very random, and sometimes it works better than other times. Yes, thanks for the reminder. Remember to like the video and subscribe. I live stream twice a week usually, almost always, unless there's some weird circumstance, Mondays and Thursdays. I'm working on an actual video too right now, like a edited one. I maybe get it done today, more likely tomorrow. Everything takes longer than I think it's going to. And I think I have to leave the house today for some errands. Yeah, I know. Getting you cat food is one of them. I'm being told right now. That's another thing about this cat. Incredibly vocal. He talks all the time. Yeah, you. That's right. You're very loud. He's always got a lot to say. Which is really funny. I like raccoons. I do like raccoons. I have a male raccoon that lives in my garage attic that will sometimes come through the cat door and lay down with a rocking chair under the kitchen sink. He's adorable. That's amazing. Wow. Just be careful. That's all. Wow, that's really cool. I had somebody that I grew up living, like a neighbor to where I grew up. They found some raccoon babies and brought them home and were raising them. And then I think the township made them at some point get rid of them. Like said you couldn't have them in town. And that was quite the upset. It was too bad. And one of my favorite musicians I know had a squirrel as a pet for a while. And that would be something, because, well, I think raccoons too be really good at getting into everything. That's a good question. How does the cat get along with your cat, or the cat get along with your raccoon? I think my cat would have a heart attack. What? You can open the door if you want to. You're fine. You still have an hour till lunch. It's not time yet. Talks more than I do. Don't you? Yeah. He's very gentle. He will sometimes play with the cat toys with Rosie, the Maine Coon. They get along. That's awesome. Who'd have thought? You know, I've always liked to draw raccoons. I think they're really fun with illustrative type work. They're really cute. Like in a cartoon kind of sense. I've had ferrets before. It's been a while. They are also, like, in order to give them what they really need is a lot of work too. Animals are so far off my drawing radar. Yeah, I do mostly figurative stuff now. But I majored in illustration in art school. So I did a lot more of that kind of stuff once upon a time. And I am working on an illustration project for somebody now too, and there will be a raccoon as one within that as well. But yeah, I think they really make for a good cute character, because they're so curious, and they got their little bodies can be so like emotive, I think. Well, open the door. You can go out. I know you know how. Oh my goodness. Do you need me to open the door for you? I don't think you do. He thinks it's lunchtime. Head to the gym. I will get back on stream when I get there. Whoa, good for you. That is a good thing to be doing. I have been very, very bad at exercising recently. It's always something I do in phases, I guess. For a while, I'll get really into some form of physical activity and then fall off for one reason or another. And right now, I am just off. At the beginning of the year, I started trying to do yoga at home a little bit. And then I got really sick in March, and I stopped, and I haven't gotten back to it, so, you know, one day I should continue. It's nice to take walks on good days, weather days. Now, if you told me this when I was a kid, I would have laughed you out of the house, but I went through a period just a few years ago where I was running a lot. And then I started having like hip pain, and I stopped. And I haven't gotten back to doing it because that lasted for a few years, that pain. And that was when I was working in an office as a designer, and in the morning I'd drive past this really nice forest preserve, and I would just stop there when it's just saying this doesn't even sound like me. I would stop there on my way to work and do like a few miles run in the morning. It's so weird. We're not the people we thought we'd be as... Oh my god, you're not kidding. And yet, in some ways, a little. I wanted to be an artist for a very long time. I was full on angsty goth kid in high school in the 90s. So definitely doing anything like physical. I would not have believed it for a second. But also, the type of art that I used to think I wanted to make, I used to think I wanted to do like Magic the Gathering illustrations and like fantasy artwork, whereas now I have like almost zero interest in doing that, even though occasionally I'll do, even in the last few years, I've done some Dominion cards. And I just feel like I'm just the wrong person to do fantasy stuff now anymore. Like, you go from this kind of thing to like medieval knights and stuff. It's like, it's not an interest. I mean, I am not at a stage in my career where I turn down a ton of work, but let me see what's going on here. Hold on. What is going on with my thing here? My thing isn't working, but I see your comment there. Yeah, I was a fat ass outsider at school. When I got to 20, I started running like you. When I got to 24, I went and studied to be a personal trainer. Like, who even is that? I had a moment like that in my early, some 10 years ago. After my dad died, he died of cancer, and I went through this, like, phase where first I'm like, well, I'm probably going to die of cancer. It's inevitable. And then I became obsessed with understanding how not to, and I went and became a health coach, which is like this total BS thing. Never did anything with that, of course, but yeah, that was all like a very weird time of my life for sure. Like, who knew? Who would have thought? I love Magic the Gathering art. I have a few of their books. I don't want to work for them, but their style and quality is something I aspire to. It's very, it's a lot of realism. I mean, it's fantasy and yet approached with a more realistic style for the most part. Both things, like there was a time where I loved it and aspired to that, and that is no longer the case for me. Like, I just don't, it's just, I guess, a different time in life, maybe. It just doesn't appeal to me anymore. I appreciate it. There's a lot of skill. There's tons and tons of skill that goes on with that sort of thing. I play Magic the Gathering. The art is amazing. I did when I was in high school. It was a very long time ago. And thank you for my dad. It's been a long time now, which is crazy. We just passed the 10-year mark this month, which just blows my mind. Because it's one of those things where it feels like, it both feels like yesterday and forever ago. And Morbid Sniper says, you are correct, Said I thought I would be on a farm, but I live in a cabin and go to the gym and live with a giant cat and a fat raccoon. You know, that's kind of goals, right? I think so. comments is being weird on my system. I don't know why. Yeah, definitely always evolving. I think that's a good thing. Always be willing to grow. What I do and what I think has changed so much. There are some things, some like core values and stuff that are the same, but I think, yeah, if we are living in the world and aware of what's going on around us, I think we are always adapting. New information, new inspirations. The things that inspire me now are not the same things that inspired me when I was much younger, like fantasy artwork. I still absolutely appreciate the skill and work that people put into it, but I'm much more likely to be inspired by more abstracted things now, like artwork by like Suzanne Jackson's recent artwork. And I saw an amazing show of Emma Amos's artwork, which was amazing and incredible and inspiring. And I've taken things from all of these people that are incredible and have influenced me in different ways. Now that I don't know that 15 years ago I'd say the same thing at all. Doing, little kitty? Oh, the biggest goal, Air said, is to complete a graphic novel. That's amazing. It's doesn't sound so different from what Morbid Sniper has said. Actually, so you guys should talk about that. But yeah, that's a serious project, but you just keep nailing away at it. Picking away a little bit all the time. I love it. I also like a lot of things that go on in like street art in that sphere of work. Beyond that, I don't know what I'll go to next. I've written books in the past, so I have that part down. Nice. That's amazing accomplishment. Now I just have to learn the entire art form of comic illustration, which would only take me 4 years. Well, you know what? Some people it takes them a lifetime. It just depends. It's all about how much you want to put into it, how adaptable you are and everything. You'll probably do great if that's like your goal, if that's your thing to do. You're gonna do it if you want to do it. I have no doubt about that. book, I was actually looking at this again recently. I've had this since, oh, paint all over my pants. This is something I've had since college, I think. Alright. And it might be helpful, and it's directed more so at like children's book style, pictures and images and stuff, but it's called Writing with Pictures. Shows better to which camera. Writing with Pictures, and by Yuri Sholovitz. I don't know if I'm saying the name right. If you can see it here, I can type it in for the chat real quick if you're would be interested, but hold on, I'll do that. No, come on. And it's just, some of the specifics are going to be about children's books. This was published, and this is in '85, so there's going to be some things like the technical things may not be exactly the same, but it does a good job of talking about like storytelling through pictures and really breaking it down into chapters, into composition and space and expression and principles and techniques and style and all these things. Like it still really holds up in a lot of ways. And if you're really just going like from, and you just want to learn from the ground up all this stuff, like this is, I think, a helpful book. And like, and I know it says children's books, but the same storytelling with images, the same principles apply. You just maybe have more pictures per page, you know. So that would definitely be a strong recommendation for me. Looking for composition and all that sort of stuff. It's all just, yeah, absolutely, all storytelling. Do you have any thoughts on if you'll work with color, or black and white? I wonder. So it seems like it might be less of an issue than it was at one time about the differences in cost for printing those things, but this can certainly change the amount of like physical effort and work that goes, like there's whole other elements, of course, to color, learning color theory, cool versus warm, creating focal points using color. And it's just a whole other tool, which I'm sure, you said here I'm just blabbering on, but you have a background in design, you know. You know these things, that's right. But I just wonder, in the case of the book that you want to create, if you were thinking one way or the other, just curious. I was assumed full color, but as I learn, I am growing and loving different techniques and generally understanding more. So I'm shifting to a mix depending on the needs of the scene. I love that. That is a perfect, amazing answer. Hello, Mr. Watson. Coming up behind me on the table here. How you doing, baby? Well, we're getting close to lunchtime, aren't we? We're getting close. We're not there yet, but we're getting close. Can you help me paint a little bit? Oh, good boy. Kitty pet break. Oh, Morbid Sniper. I almost got accepted to a graphic arts school that had people that made DC, Marvel, and TMNT and a bunch of other comics teaching. Oh, that's awesome. That's very cool. Yeah, and there's that the more I know, I don't assume I always know, because the more I know, the more I don't know. Isn't that the truth? We think we have these aha moments, and it's like, oh, I get it. I understand what I need to do here, and then it just reveals how much more we have yet to learn. That is always the way. Always, always. I don't know that that ever changes. Okay, stand up and work over here for a little bit. Maybe. I feel like my color is quite different on this side, but I can work through that. Self-taught, nice. Self-taught to write. Even with college, we end up teaching ourselves so much, and I think if you're not doing that, you're missing out on a lot. There's always so much to learn. And we never have to stop. I think you never become such an expert in anything that there isn't some other thing to learn or to try or to study. Even as an expert in anything, there's always room for growth if we want to. Ooh. Titles that you could recommend that improved your writing in leaps and bounds. Yeah, more recommendations. Yeah, there's so many resources available to us anymore. It's just incredible. Anything you want to learn, you can find so many resources. And so much of what I do now, this is everything I'm doing on the work that you see me do, or anything that's on my website, has very little to do with what I learned in college. Very little. And I talk pretty plainly about my art school experience, mixed bag at best. Some of it my fault, some of it issues with the college staff and curriculum. But there is so much that we can do on our own, absolutely. You don't necessarily need an institution, and there's even groups around. You might find, I'm not, like, if you live near any towns that maybe have like writing groups that get together, and like critique groups and such, to get input from other people, where that can be valuable too sometimes. Absolutely. Story Genius by Cron and Save the Cat. Save the Cat writes a novel by Brody. Thank you for sharing your recommendations there. I wish when I was young that like YouTube existed. What an incredible resource it is to learn things. Although at the same time, I'm kind of glad that the internet wasn't what it is now, because I probably would have embarrassing things that existed in the world that don't need to exist anywhere. Which is, you know, something that I think must be rough for kids growing up with all this stuff. He's back. Hi. He's very concerned about getting some food, aren't ya? We're getting there, aren't we? It's almost close. It's 11:30. You have a half an hour. Having him on a feeding schedule is helpful to me because it reminds me to eat also, to stop and do those things. Because he does not let me forget. There are millions of groups and sites online for feedback. That's how I learn. It's how I found this channel. I try and find communities and people I can connect with. Yes, absolutely. And another advantage to the internet, of course, being able to find communities, is if you live in a place where there aren't many ways to meet people who are doing things that you're interested in, or that can be of equal inspiration to you. Yeah, the internet is very valuable that way for sure. Hello, Watson. What's my baby doing? Get up on the desk. Also, when I'd be working on the floor with the larger paintings in the past, before I had this particular easel, he would sometimes get behind, he being my cat, get behind the canvas and be like trying to get the brush. So he'd help me paint a little bit. I just had to be very careful to try to not let him actually get into the paint or get any paint on him, which did happen once. He took a little leap at the brush on this side of the canvas, and we had to do a little emergency wash up. Because he had a few pink hairs on his head for a little while. Which, while I thought he was very cute, I also don't want him to be getting into that stuff. I tried to join critique groups and other book writing stuff, but they either told me to quit writing, or kick me out. This is the only place that I found, and Fumes is the only person that said my stories sounded good or interesting. Well, those are the wrong groups, for sure, and sometimes it takes a while to find your people. people can be gatekeepers for sure. And that is not what a support creative group should be at all. Like, it should be the opposite of being gatekeepers. And it makes me mad that's a thing. It's beyond wrong. The point should be to support each other. It doesn't matter if somebody doesn't like your story. Your story is subjective no matter what. It doesn't make you a good or bad writer because somebody doesn't like the content of your story. It's that's just their taste that they're pushing onto you in a very kind of messed up way. Yeah, that's just part of the process for me. I sort of throw it a wide net and connect to many, and then end up refining and connecting with specific groups because they match with me. Absolutely. Keep searching, you'll land in a good place. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's like finding a good therapist, you know. You might go through some real duds for a while, and it can be very, very disheartening. And I get that. Absolutely, but it's finding your people. That group was definitely not your people. Some people, the gatekeeping type of approach that some people come at you with, will decide that they think something is like maybe a lowbrow or whatever. And I feel that because I don't work in a classical way, and not everybody is receptive to that. And they'll think that that makes your work lowbrow, but there's nothing wrong with that either. Art doesn't move if there's not somebody pushing what's acceptable and what isn't. There's plenty of credible media and like creative expressions now that were for a long time considered not real art, not good enough to be this, that, or the other thing. Screw that. Just keep doing what you do. Keep going. Continue finding people. And that's that. Just do it. There is that defiant part of me that's like, somebody says I can't? Oh, really? Guess what? I'm content with this community. Seems small and supportive, so I found my place, I think. Good. And for real, just keep doing your thing. I I found gatekeeping communities do so more out of a sense of protection of the current existing clan. Yes, it is absolutely, you can't come into my club because what you do I'm uncomfortable with or threatening or whatever. New people can be treated super harshly for a while, almost as a hazing process. Yeah, it's not cool, but as humans, it's a normal group instinct. It happens a lot, and it's not personal. That's the thing. It's not personal. Don't try not to take things like that personal. Like, I say that as somebody who struggles with that as well. I think that's human too. But yeah, terrific insight there. That's absolutely right. Humans are tribal, after all, still. We haven't had the time to completely, even though we don't live that way exactly, we haven't outgrown those instincts. We need thousands more years to really do that, if it ever happens at all. Yeah, as a 38-year-old, it's taken me a long time to get here and see that. Absolutely. I've been through 14 different groups. Oh my goodness. They either stop writing, kick them out, or just sit around and smoke and drink, claiming they are writing or a reading group. Yeah. I think we've all seen those. Like those, the book clubs that just get together socially. Yeah, that can be a thing too, for sure. Sometimes all people want out of those groups is just to connect and hang out with other people that are into the same things they are. I've never joined a book club because I can't keep myself to that pace of reading consistently. I wish I could. But I know a lot of people who have joined book clubs that complain that, and that's not even a writing group, you know, but that complain that it ends up just being like this social get together. Everybody's talking about their families and what they're doing over the summer and vacations, and it's impossible to get people talking, and that's what some people are looking for good or bad. I'm somewhere between feeling like this is a mess and being happy with it. Somewhere in between there comes the truth. Heck yeah, hydro reminder. Get some water. Stay hydrated. Or wine, if that's your case. In my case, also coffee. Man, I drink too much coffee probably, but yeah, it is kind of my drug of choice. And I try to offset that by drinking plenty of water along with it. That's my justification. I've certainly had people suggest that I should cut back. Clearly it has not happened. I tried. I once went a good chunk of time. How long was it? Maybe like 6 months or something? Where for, as an experiment, I would only drink coffee on the weekends. I wasn't drinking coffee during the daytime. And I decided it didn't make me feel any better or worse. It didn't make me feel any different. So why am I doing that? Why, when I enjoy it? So, yeah, there's far worse things to get caught up in. I need my tea. It's as much a comfort thing as anything. Absolutely. I think the same thing, even with coffee, it's almost more of like a ritual, and I just like it. I don't like need it to wake up. The caffeine doesn't, I think, do entirely a whole lot for me, but I just really enjoy like the sitting down with a warm cup of coffee in the morning, starting your day, and that's just like that part of going. Fumes is working on her painting on stream. I'm working on my story currently. And what are you doing, Rosette? Oh yeah. You got anything in process at the moment? Any particular projects or drawings or writing that you're doing at the moment? Currently contemplating bed. Yes, it is very late there. When I started here and you said it was 1, it must be after nearing 3 for you. Because it's almost noon here, which actually is also kind of my general point of breaking. Walk away from the work, feed the cat, of course, and myself, and reset about what needs to be done for the rest of the day, which is always a trick, because I really struggle with prioritization. All these things have to happen, and all I can see is a million tiny tasks, and I don't know where to go. Very annoying. As for what my actual project is, I'm currently working on fundamentals. I'm at the last part of a course I'm doing, which is 3D boxes. Ooh. Aside from that, I'm learning how to draw heads. So I can start drawing my characters for my graphic novel accurately. Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. You get those fundamentals down and then you just, the sky's the limit. And I am just a hair older than you, Arset. And I love to be learning new skills. I think there was a time in my life where I got frustrated that I didn't have my thing. I didn't have things figured out and the career set yet. But you know what? Doesn't matter. I forgot to tell you something has changed about me since I was last on stream here. What is that? What is it? What is it? Do share. The day I stop learning, I'm dead. With you. How boring life would be. There's so much to do and try. I am now on a carnivore diet. Only meat. Only meat. That's quite a switch. What brought that about? If I may ask. though. Yeah. Is that like keto or paleo or something kind of thing? Is it the raccoon? That would be the trash can dye, wouldn't it? It's to help your body and health. Yeah, I mean, it's true that some people will feel better eating meat and some feel better not. We all have to listen to our bodies. But I think you always still do need some fiber and complex carbohydrates. I know, we're really close now, aren't we, baby? About time for me to take a break and come feed you, huh? Told you he doesn't know. Let me forget. Yeah, I was getting confused with my own trash can diet. Sorry. Yeah, you got to do what works for you and your body. And speaking of that, Watson's body is telling him and me, time for a food break. So this is a good place to stop. Got a decent amount done. In a way, it feels like not enough, but at least a third of the canvas is done with all that stuff. And I will probably continue to work on that outside of stream so that I'm not boring everybody doing the same thing throughout. But yes, we'll be back on Monday evening, 7 p.m. Central Time. Thank you guys for hanging out. Morbid Sniper, I have low iron, underweight. Yeah, then you probably definitely need more, you need to incorporate some meat back into your diet for sure. Do the things that make you feel good. Feed your body, listen to your body always. Era said, I think you did great work. That's good. Not messy. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think it also helps that you're seeing it from a little distance, but it'll all come together in the end. Always self-deprecating. Must be. Anyway, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and have an awesome rest of your week, Friday and weekend. I hope the weather's great by you guys, and keep going with the creative stuff, and I'll talk to you soon. So have a good one, and good night, Arset. Get some sleep.